Welcome to Abandoned Save, where I highlight the good, not legendary games of the past that you forgot about and left that save in the dust. If you're like me, then you love wall running and taking crazy leaps in video games, and Mirror's Edge is really the only game that's ever scratched that itch perfectly. Honestly, I would love for a game like that that's just about running around and you never have to have any combat at all, but that doesn't sell enough to be profitable, so these kinds of things are always going to have some form of combat. Mirror's Edge made it really rough, almost like it was to spite EA, who probably forced them to include the guns, though Catalyst did improve on it several years later. Unfortunately, that series will likely never see the light of day again, no matter how much a few of us loved it, but there are a few games out there who've taken it as an inspiration. So, okay, we know you have to include combat to keep people interested, but instead of making it realistic, what if we took a cyberpunk setting, slapped a cyber ninja with a sword in there, gave it some techno music, and wrapped it all up with a post-apocalyptic story? If I still have your attention and you haven't played Ghostrunner before, now's the time to check it out. Let's take a look at the two games in the series, and I'll show you why this is a must-play that too many people have ignored. Ghostrunner drops you off straight into the plot, no time for introductions. This mysterious voice will continue to talk to the Ghostrunner as we run through the brief tutorial, learning how to wall run, attack, slide, and dash. The dash button can also be held down to allow you to slow down time to dodge bullets. In Ghostrunner, everyone dies in a single hit, including you. This might make it sound really hard, and yeah, you're right, Ghostrunner can be unforgiving at times, and demands near perfection in each enemy encounter. The good thing is that the game knows what it's asking of you and provides checkpoints for each one, and also resets very quickly when you die with just the press of a button. There are no Dark Souls boss walks. If you die, you just go right back into it and try the same shit again until you realize there was a different way you could approach the fight the whole time, and you're a disappointment to your whole family. But that's a part of the fun of the game, as it really makes you feel like a badass when you finally manage to defeat a difficult encounter and get that slow-mo finisher on the last guy. They give you the excuse that each guard has a chip that keeps the area in lockdown, and that's why you have to kill them all to advance, but honestly that wasn't even necessary. The story here isn't bad at all, but it's not the real reason to play these games. Just be prepared to die a lot until you figure it out. I've played them before, so I already kind of know what I'm doing, and I still died plenty. Once into the second level, they throw in the grappling hook, gap jammer, to give you another movement option in your arsenal, and we're heading to a prison cell to free the voice helping guide us. Thanks to BioShock, I don't trust voices like that, and the doctors told me as long as I keep taking the pills, I won't hear them anymore. Once we finally make it to him, he locks the Ghostrunner down and pulls him into the Cybervoid. This is the game's representation of hacking or otherwise interfacing with the computer parts of the Ghostrunner's robot body, and often the place for the game to tell you a bunch of story, like it does here. I guess the Ghostrunner is busted, and that's why he hasn't been able to talk until now, but it's not a silent protagonist. The voice tells us it's the architect, and that we are a Ghostrunner, surprise I know, and then leaves us to do some real hacking that will put one of those CSI shows to shame with how realistic it is. The Ghostrunner was in a fight against a woman called Mara and fell a long distance, leaving him out of commission until right when the game started, and he, along with the other Ghostrunners, failed to protect the architect, who lost his life. But luckily for him, he had already created an AI version of himself, which is who we're talking to. He also tells us that we're currently in Dharma Tower, the last bastion of humanity created by the architect and fully controlled by him as well. The Ghostrunner was prepared by a faction called the Climbers, who can't climb anything at all on account of the fact that they're all dead. The architect then tells us he was betrayed by Mara, who took over Dharma Tower, now calling herself the Keymaster. Everyone knows when you take over a settlement and become a tyrant, you have to give yourself an edgy nickname. It's just the rules. The end of a level will give you your completion time and death total for it to make you feel bad about yourself, and give you the option to retry if you're looking to speedrun. The game is only a couple hours long, so that's one of the main replayability features, but you can usually get it for cheap enough that the short length doesn't bother me. Starting the next level gives us access to the upgrade screen, where each upgrade is some crazy Tetris shape, and as you progress, you'll get access to more and more space you can try and jam them into. A lot of games do this. I'm not the biggest fan of it, but I suppose they have to limit you somehow. And this method also gives you choice in what you want to upgrade. What's more important is that now we can slash at bullets, and if timed right, it'll send it right back at the enemy and kill them, which is a basic Cyber Ninja requirement and cool as hell whenever you pull it off. There are also different swords, gloves, and collectibles that you can find throughout the game to give yourself a little bit of personality while you kill, and unlock some achievements. Now we're off to go restore some more ninja moves before we can take on Mara at the top of the tower. But since the Ghostrunner fell pretty much all the way down in the first fight against her, that we never got to see, the goal of the game is going to be to climb all the way back up to the top while we restore those lost functions. While on the way, we pick up a radio signal from Zoe of the Climbers. It turns out they weren't all dead, but the architect thinks she's useless and therefore didn't bother bringing her up. That's kind of rude. I also found an audio log while this was going on, but you can't listen to them while the menu is closed, so there's no way I'm going to stare at a menu while it gives me a bit of backstory. If you want more lore, it's there for you to find. Otherwise, you can just pick them up for achievements or ignore them completely. Up to you. I did go through on PlayStation and get the Platinum Trophy for this game, which is actually really fun to do and gives you the most time out of your money for the game, but you don't need to do it to have a good time. Zoe makes a second call out for help, and this time the Ghostrunner decides to answer despite what the architect thinks. She calls the Ghostrunner Jack for some reason, and he tells her that he's going after Mara. Even though he doesn't care for his opinion on who is or is not useful, the Ghostrunner apparently still wants to accomplish the goal the architect set out for him, and based on what Zoe is saying, it actually is a noble one. Zoe offers to help him out and he agrees, and when the architect asks him why he even bothered, he says it's because they fixed him.
Do you really need the assistance of a failed rebel when you already have my help?
They fixed me.
Clearly, the Ghostrunner has a mind of his own and has some sentimentality, whether the architect planned for that or not. Now we're headed back into the Cybervoid, and it's time to pick up our first ninja power, Blink. It's a dashing strike that can cleave through bullets and kill multiple enemies at once.
Focus. Again. 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 Again.
Enemies get stronger as we go up the tower, and here we start getting faced with these orbs that shield them. You can't defeat an enemy with a shield at all until you destroy the orb, which adds some complexity to the fights, and also makes you feel like you're storming the beaches of Normandy as you dash around bullets flying at you until you can reach the orb.
Mara killed 100 Ghostrunners.
99 to be precise. What of it?
How am I to fight her alone?
Okay, the Ghostrunner makes a good point. How the hell are we possibly going to win?
Mara's kill switch among them.
Oh, she just turned them all off before. So the architect made an army of sword-wielding ninja robots that just have an off switch. This guy was just asking to get cooed. Apparently the climbers took our off switch away too, so that's something he could have done before sending them all after her. I see why he lost. Now we learn why he calls himself the Architect. A little self-righteous, but the title isn't wrong, I guess. Anyway, Zoe is back and she's given our Ghostrunner a name.
Why Jack?
Right. You wouldn't know. It's a code name we used for you during the repairs. Diego said you were all jacked up when he found you, and it stuck.
What kind of crazy cyber ninja robot maker would be sitting back, listening to his last one, totally gaining sentience, and be completely cool with it? He's not going to say anything here? Seriously, the more I hear, the more I think the architect deserved what he got. Zoe then connects into Jack so she can see through his eyes, and she is brave as hell for that. Imagine doing all this game in VR. You'd be puking up your lunch in 10 seconds. Eventually, Zoe contacts Jack to tell him that the enemies are heading to shut off the air filters for the lower levels, sacrificing thousands of people in order to slow him down and punish the rebels. The architect says, "Fuck them kids," but in another act of defiance, Jack ignores him completely and heads straight for the filters. This introduces us to the super speed uplinks, which allow Jack to move so fast he can run between spinning fan blades, and yeah, that's pretty much all it's ever used for. It is a pretty well done show of super speed, way better than anything superhero movies are doing, but it doesn't add that much to the game either. I could take it or leave it. It is pretty fun on the rare occasion you get to use one while in combat though. Running straight up to the guys with machine guns makes you feel really powerful.
I keep trying to contact the other climbers, get help. No luck so far. Maybe they're laying low.
Maybe.
They're quite literally laying low on the ground. Dead.
Alright, that's pretty funny. I'll give you that one, Architect, you cold bastard. Meanwhile, I'm finding an endless amount of stupid ways to die in this game. But that's nothing compared to the most deadly thing in this tower. No, not the new melee enemies. Straight lines. This single walkway with 2 guys on it is harder than half the encounters in this game. Fuck you too! Obviously, fixing the filters means going back into the Cybervoid and playing this little IQ test. My results are in. Dumbass. I think there was something wrong with that test. Anyway, I solved it like really fast and got the filters back online. The next level introduces these demons with shields, and seriously, fuck these guys. They knock you to Madagascar if you bump into the shield, and their turn speed is faster than Sonic on cocaine. These assholes remind me of the people that would run around with a riot shield and a knife in Call of Duty, only there to ruin the fun for everyone else. I hate them, and if you did that, I used to hate you too, but I've matured. Now I know it's not your fault your parents were siblings. Oh good, 2 of them at once. Thank God Blink can cut through the shields. Moving on, there are now machines Jack can interact with to slow them down and use them as a platform, which adds one more thing to your mental load while you traverse the tower. It can be hard sometimes to remember what button you need to be hitting, but I think they do a good job of keeping it sensible for each section. This level also introduces the Shuriken power-up that can be used to turn off machines and in combat as well. So, wait a second. Sword-wielding cyber ninjas with super speed and Shuriken power-ups hidden around the tower. Pretty sure the architect was a massive weeb. Did you also preserve the holy text Naruto and One Piece, buddy?
Believe it!
Back into the Cybervoid again, I personally don't like these sections that much, especially since you can't use the dash in them, which feels like taking away your ability to walk in this game, and I'd much rather the puzzles were integrated more into the actual tower. But this one makes it all worth it because it gives my favorite power in the game, Tempest. This lets you shoot air out of your hand with vibrations somehow, but it can be used to reflect bullets, and more importantly, you can use it to just kill a whole bunch of dudes in front of you, including the shield guys. There are also new robot enemies now outside of the Cybervoid that requires you to wait until they attack and slide under it, which are pretty fun, but they also have to be dealt with quickly because their attacks are just huge. That leads us into the first boss fight of this game. There aren't many, and they're kind of the weakest parts of this game, but this one is more of a jumping puzzle than a boss, requiring you to climb up while dodging lasers and hit it a few times. I find this boss to be pretty tough, and I'm pretty sure I died to it over 100 times the first time I played this game, no joke. Patience is a virtue, but it's one that I don't have. Only 32 deaths this time, look at me. The reward for all that is actually getting into the city. Remember when I said this was a cyberpunk setting? You might have forgotten after the first few hours of jumping through factory ducts, but now we're in the city proper with drones to ride, zip lines, and jump power-ups to launch Jack around. This is what the game was promising from the start, and now that we've made it here, it really delivers. The rails and grappling points are like the rails all around the levels in Sonic Frontiers, and don't make any logical sense. So if that turned you off of Sonic, it's gonna do the same thing here, but I personally don't care because zipping around on that stuff is fun. The exposition dumping also slows down at this point in favor of more combat encounters that are more varied and intense than ever before. Time to get a new enemy. Ninjas that run at you that you have to parry with a well-timed attack. They also speak Japanese for some reason. I both love and hate these enemies. Parries are always cool in games, but I also don't like having to stop and wait for them to dash at me when I'm busy flying around at 40 miles an hour. Now that we're getting closer to the top of the tower, the architect seems to be getting a bit nervous about the more and more obvious display of sentience that Jack has going on, so I have no idea why he didn't say anything earlier.
Why did you program me not to use guns?
Because he's a weeb!
Not to mention how crude those guns are compared to your tools.
Told you. He would have been a mall ninja back in the 2000s for sure. Holy shit, 81 deaths. Like I said, you're gonna die a lot. Now we've got some kind of female Ghostrunner we're going after. We don't know what it is, but it definitely can't be good.
Just hop on. The train should be empty.
It isn't.
On the top of the train is this section that's very similar to the train section in Mirror's Edge, but a bit harder. I feel like this was an homage, but I can't find anything confirming that to be 100% certain. Now that we've caught the Hell robot, we start our fight against her. This one is all about parrying, and it's pretty fun. I like this fight. And we're clearly a threat because Mara even starts talking to Jack now. If you're looking for the 0 deaths on a level achievement, this is the one to do it on, by the way. After finishing her, we get the Surge ability, which is good, but I still think Tempest is better. Afterwards, we grab her sword and take off. I've never played it, but there is a DLC for this game where you play as a Hell robot as a prologue if you're looking for more content. While traversing some new cameras, we learn that the architect's name as a human was Adam, because of course it was. Then Zoe takes off to investigate a distress signal and admits she knew Jack was only pretending to need her help.
Zoe out.
She probably won't survive.
Man, thanks for being so optimistic. Now we're finally getting an idea of what Mara is trying to do. She thinks surviving in Dharma Tower is no way to live, and wants to turn everyone into man-machine hybrids like these explosive things chasing Jack around so they can all leave the tower. The cost for this is just your sentience. Even the architect thinks that shit is crazy, so fair enough, he was right from the beginning. She does need to go.
For the transformation is not easy.
Yeah, she's nuts. For that, we're gonna need another power. Everyone has neural implants, and we have a way to hack them and turn them briefly to our side. And this is why there is no way in hell I will ever be convinced to get a Neuralink. Even if the government or something never used it on me, my friends would use it to make me do some stupid shit.
You ever think about just slamming your face down into a big bowl of cereal like this?
No, but you should do it right now.
No, I'm not gonna do it.
Do it.
No, I'm not gonna.
There's one final enemy type added here which can teleport around, but they're just more annoying than anything else as you have to chase them. Oh, look at that, it's the world's shyest ninja. Mara comes back on to tell the architect AI that Adam feared it before he died because it had no empathy, but there's no way to know whether she was lying or not. The architect seems to think that she was. This gets Jack to start questioning the architect, and insists that he is not Adam himself, but the architect doesn't agree. The trust is gone, but Mara still has to be dealt with. Jack insists on learning who he himself is, probably believing himself to be a modified human, but the architect doesn't answer, and I don't believe there's an actual answer for that in this game. Time for the showdown with Mara, or Dr. Octopus apparently. This is the ultimate form of humanity? A villain from a comic book. Yeah, okay lady, let's put you to bed. You just have to dodge her attacks for a bit, and she'll eventually stab at you, which you can dodge to make her hit an electrified computer and get stunned, so you can chop one of her octo arms off. The floor electrifies, and sometimes you have to grapple up to the walls to avoid it, but this boss is still only okay. Let me just get this last arm. Come on. Oh my fucking... Okay, she's defeated. And now the architect is turning on us. Oh no, who could have possibly seen this coming? We're taken into Cybervoid as he attempts to take over Jack's body. He wants everyone to do everything he says, which would eliminate violence and keep humanity alive, I suppose, but at the cost of their free will.
Now stop resisting.
Yeah, that's not making me think I should trust you. This whole section is one final parkour challenge, but even though it's in the Cybervoid, you still have your dash ability, so I think this one is a lot better than the others, and I actually really like it. Jack finally makes it to him and deletes him by stabbing, which I guess would work on a hard drive too if you never wanted to use it again. Shutting down the Cybervoid also shuts down Jack though, so our hero has a valiant end. We get one final cutscene narrated by Zoe, who somehow survived her distress signal, in a comic-like format, which I really like. It shows her and the climbers beginning to rebuild, and Jack frozen near Mara's body. And right at the end, he moves, showing he may have actually survived somehow. At around 4 hours long, Ghostrunner is definitely a game you want to pick up on sale, but it's old enough that happens pretty regularly. It's a great game, but it's almost a proof of concept, kind of similar to how the original Mirror's Edge I keep comparing it to was very short, but at least this has the DLC I mentioned and some additional modes like the hardcore mode if it wasn't hard enough already. The game was also given as a PS Plus title and Amazon Gaming title at one point, which is how I was introduced to the series before the sequel came out. This one sold about 2.5 million copies as of 2023, which is pretty good. Ghostrunner 2 then came out in 2023, and after playing the first one on PC and then downloading it on PlayStation and platinuming it right afterwards, I went out and pre-ordered Ghostrunner 2 right away, and the guy at GameStop had no idea what the fuck I was even trying to buy, so I know it's not as popular as it deserves to be. It did get a much more significant budget, and if you don't care at all about playing the first, Ghostrunner 2 is the one to play. Let's go through that one too, and you'll see why. Starting off, we're getting another one of those cutscenes right away. We don't know who's narrating, but apparently they're a Ghostrunner, and they aren't too happy with the people of Dharma Tower. We see Jack watching over the city with Zoe in the background, so apparently he was resurrected somehow, and the narrator promises to make Dharma pay. Alright, enough of that nonsense. Let's go straight into a level. Some new character, Connor, is talking to Jack, and the first thing we're going to do is grind a rail and learn that there's now a block button. If you thought the first game was too hard, they tried to make this one a bit easier. You do have a limited stamina bar for blocking, which is also your dash stamina to help balance it out. You can also now parry by blocking with good timing against any enemy, not just the sword guys. Well, for the most part. Connor cheekily refers to Jack as Jackie on comms as you go, and it's pretty clear that Jack isn't a big fan of him. Jack also goes way crazier with the sword tricks while you jump, so he's got a little more personality by now. We're after a gang leader called Ahriman, as apparently the architect was right. You have to do more than strike down the tyrant to fix the world.
Time for your ninja rope to shine.
My what?
You know, the grappling hook, gun, implant.
It's called Gap Jammer.
Yeah, see, grappling hook, that's what I said. I don't know why Jack is so insistent on this stupid name. Since I'm dying a few times here, I'll also mention that once again, resetting is fast and easy. Just a single button and you're instantly back to the same encounter you died in. This game is a little bit easier, but it's still pretty tough, and you can tell the devs cared because the instant reset really makes the game for me. There are also challenges around some of the levels that you can find. The gold times on these are really strict, but it's necessary if you're going for all the achievements in this game, and there is a reward associated with them that I'll explain later. They are pretty fun to do at least once though, and I'll get to this later as well, but while getting all the achievements in Ghostrunner 1 is a lot of fun, I did it in Ghostrunner 2 also, and if you value your sanity, I do not recommend going for it in this game. Just play it and have fun. But just hold on to that for now. Oh, and I'm still dying in stupid ways. That hasn't changed, just in case you're wondering. The Gap Jammer can also now be used to pull things down. They don't let you do it too often, but it's pretty fun to crush some bad guys. There's still multiple ways to take on each encounter too. In fact, this game is much more open than the first one ever was, right from the start. Which does make the encounters a bit harder in a way, because you have to figure out more of the layout. But it is fun to figure out, and the individual enemies are a little bit weaker to make up for it. Once we reach the reactor, we find Ahriman and his hologram buddies getting up to some weird shit. They're called the Asura, and have resurrected their leader, Mitra. Jack tries to stop them, and we start a boss fight with Ahriman. Where the first game was really weak, this game does infinitely better. We're only 20 minutes into this game, and this is a real-ass boss fight. It is not holding any punches. This is genuinely hard. Even when you know his attacks, you still have to react quickly to dodge them, but don't worry, you don't need to take out his entire health bar without dying. Eventually he knocks you away, and some guy comes to help you out and gives you a checkpoint. On a cooldown, you can call him in to freeze Ahriman and get a bunch of damage in, but it's ultimately up to you when to use it. And there's obviously an achievement for beating him without using it at all, which is pretty tough. I have no idea how many times I died going for it. Especially because sometimes his hitboxes fucking cheat! Once you beat him, you get a new sword right away, and he finishes himself off. Then our friend Bakunin gets himself arrested by our backup, and we're told Connor wants to see us. That introduces us to Saul, and then the new hub area. You'll come here between some missions and can interact with a few things, like this computer where you can buy upgrades. The old Tetris system is gone, and replaced with this one where you can gain points for defeating enemies with a multiplier that increases for chaining kills quickly, and you can use those points to buy upgrades. Then you can place the upgrades on your overlay, but the amount of places you can place them in is limited by your memory level. Memory shards are a new collectible that will increase it, and you also get one of them for each medal in the challenges, so there's your reason I mentioned to get gold on them. Another thing I really like about this hub is this area where you can see all the swords you've collected hanging on the wall, and all the collectibles are strewn about here as well, which just brings some more life into the game. You can change your sword and gloves at any time in the menu, as well as something else that the UI spoils, but I won't until we get there. Bakunin tells us that the Asura are all Ghostrunners, and he's been tracking them for a while. You can talk to people in the hub and choose optional dialogue, or ignore it completely if you don't care. We talk to Zoe and Saul, confirming Jack doesn't like Connor, and Saul gives Jack a Shuriken upgrade that we'll see once we're in a level. Connor lets us know that Bakunin was in the Keymaster's army, and then tells us we're going after the Church of the Architect, who worship the Architect, and he may be back somehow. Now let's do our introduction to the Shurikens. Instead of having to collect power-ups, they're now just a skill that can be used pretty limitlessly outside of combat, and in combat they just have to recharge. This game is all about giving you way more options than the first one ever did, and giving new uses to the old stuff. For instance, the Shuriken can now be used to stun large enemies, and they become a grapple point. There are also still audio logs here, and they still can't be listened to outside of the menus, so I still don't have time for that shit. The sword guys make their appearance, and they work pretty much exactly the same as before, but the parry just instantly kills them instead of making you hit them, and it's a little bit more brutal than before. We also have explosive barrels that all the enemies like to huddle around now because they know they're bad and those are the rules required by law. All bad guys must huddle around explosive barrels, whether in their base or in a long-lost temple. Upgrading your memory enough doesn't just give you more upgrade slots, it also slowly unlocks the ultimates in a set order, starting with Flux. These things recharge slowly over time and are extremely overpowered. It's basically a get-out-of-jail-free card for a tough encounter, like how I used it here. Oh, come on, the Cybervoid is still a thing in this? But, thankfully, they've learned. You still have access to the dash this time, and it's less about puzzles and more about parkour challenges. We can't get through because Jack isn't an elite enough hacker to do it, so we have to leave for now and come up with a new plan. The Cybervoid being back does potentially explain how Jack was able to come back to life, but even the characters aren't really sure about that. Now back in the hub, we can meet these two guards, Victor and Butch, who always have something goofy to say, so be sure to stop by every time you return just to hear it.
You think he's got a face under there?
Dude, that is his face.
What? No way.
Totally. The whole thingies, the glowing thingies are the eyes.
So he's got 3 eyes.
Yeah, makes for better depth perception.
This actually makes sense.
Bakunin knows someone who can potentially help with Jack's premature finishing problem in the Cybervoid, so we head out to go recruit her. Kira has Cybervoid terminals set up with special anti-hacking super hot men in it. Super hot like the game, not whatever. This level is all about hacking the 3 terminals in order to get in proper contact with Kira to convince her to help us. I like the idea of this level, and the Cybervoid is much better, but I still just don't really like being pulled out of the regular gameplay for these. Oh, look at that, a little Jack doll. He seems like the type to secretly love the merch of himself, like Doom Guy. Once Jack finally gets to Kira, she pretty much immediately agrees to help, and we're sent right back to the hub. She's a bit of an eccentric and used to work for Mara, so I wonder how Zoe feels about her.
What do you think of Kira?
Let's say I'm not a fan.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Does he piss?
They're asking the real questions on this base. Talking to Kira, we learned that the Asura were some Ghostrunners that betrayed the Architect and disappeared a long time ago, and they operate under a system called Bushido, which essentially are rules that force them to comply with orders, rather than them just being programmed to implicitly agree with whatever the Architect wanted. It's pretty fucked up, honestly. They still have their own free thoughts, but they're forced to comply with whatever the Architect wants, even if they don't want to. On our way out, Kira tells Jack about the RogueRunner mode, which has some cosmetics up for grabs if you complete it. This right here was made by Satan. This thing is the entire reason I wouldn't recommend going for all the achievements in Ghostrunner 2. There are other hard ones like completing 5 levels without dying, but this is something else entirely. It's a roguelike mode where you can get random boons as you clear either parkour or combat stages with a limited number of lives, and you choose where you want to go on this grid. The tough combat encounters on these can be brutal, and it took me about 15 minutes just to clear this stage. This is the first stage, and I played this game before. They get much harder than this. Completing the harder ones leaves you completely at the mercy of you being on top of your shit and hoping for the best boons possible at the same time. I get they wanted to add some stuff for replayability. You can even play this game from the main menu, but with no meta progression whatsoever and an extremely small margin for error, this mode can become an exercise in frustration. There are also nodes where they're just gambles, where you can take a really small chance for a really good upgrade, and you pretty much need those to beat the difficult levels. And that puts the pressure on hard when you actually win the fucking lottery, because if you don't win that run, then you done fucked up, because now you gotta do it again and pray that RNGesus will grace you with his gifts again. And it's all just for some admittedly cool gloves and swords. It is not worth it at all unless you're going for 100% completion, and it drives me fucking crazy if you couldn't tell. Fuck this mode! Okay, happy thoughts. I'm calm now. Let's just go back to the creepy robot church. We can now hack Cybervoid stuff, which is the easiest way to kill me in this game because I can never remember if blue or orange was active. Once we're done hacking, we can enter the church.
Should we try and negotiate with them?
Oh, I've already tried that. Unlike the architect, I like to exhaust the diplomatic solutions before sending in the killer cyborgs.
What do they say?
They said, the holy light of the machine god shall burn away your corruption. So, I sent in the killer cyborg.
You know, I respect Connor for that, but I don't think Jack is a cyborg. I thought we resolved that in the first game. I don't know. Eventually, Jack runs into a terminal that somehow gives him the shadow power. This allows you to go invisible for a short time and leave a copy of yourself behind, which you have to use to block these beams that open doors when the circuit is closed. It's neat, but I didn't feel that it was more useful in combat than just using the Shuriken instead. The joy of the upgrade system, though, is that you can decide for yourself what's best and upgrade accordingly. You don't have to just use the Shurikens like I do. The architect's dulcet tones then start coming over the church speakers, but the characters seem to agree that there's something off about it. It doesn't sound like the AI from before. And the church members apparently want Jack's body. Bunch of clankers. Once we arrive at the source of the voice, Jack isn't accepting for a second that it's actually the architect. That brings us into the Cybervoid, where we now have teleporting enemies and portals, because we have completely lost the plot when it comes to what the fuck this place is even supposed to be, and we're apparently fighting the Avatar. Hopefully it's Korra. It's actually one of the Asura that was at the reactor, and this time the fight is a really fun and challenging parkour course while he yaps at us. I died a bunch here due to my color problem, and this bullshit where I must have missed the portal by the length of Jack's hair. Luckily I got through eventually, and Kira saves us from getting chopped. Jack finds the Avatar's head and just kinda picks it up and leaves to end the level.
We took down the Keymaster.
It was mostly him, though, wasn't it?
It was a team effort, and there's neither G nor R in team.
Man, no one respects Jack around here. Everyone's busy discussing what we should do.
Connor!
Your old master's head is at your feet, right where it belongs.
Damn. What a way to sell a villain. I did not see that coming at all. And you know Jack is going after him.
They're here for the head.
Too bad we don't have it anymore. Unless they're good with Connors.
Jesus, Kira, that's cold. We've officially lost Mitra, the beheader, but the base is under attack, so Jack is going to lead the defense in something like a boss fight that's really just a really long encounter with checkpoints. This is unique for this game, and I think it's kind of cool. I also learned that Kira does not hold back. Ever. Apparently the Avatar is able to block the Bushido code so that Mitra can go around chopping some heads. So probably not Korra then. This is an Aang situation. He's not fucking anything up. Kira managed to find some coordinates in the Avatar's head before they were gone, so as our only lead, we're gonna have to go check it out. You also get Tempest unlocked for this level, but the Shuriken is just so damn useful, I can't switch off of it. At least it can be used for light puzzle solving now. It's also used for the worst challenge for shards ever devised. Whoever made this? Why? Who hurt you? Did your parents die in a horrible explosive barrel accident and you've sworn vengeance on them ever since? You can't aim these at all, and you basically can't miss to get gold. It took me forever. Anyway, we finally reached what they were guarding. The other thing that you can customize in the menu that I was hiding before. Fuck yes.
But you have no idea how to ride it.
No idea how to ride it? Jack is a badass. He was born ready for this. Now, is the motorcycle a bit of a gimmick? Yes. Is it awesome anyway? Also yes. If you have vertigo or are a real stickler for physics, this is your cue to leave because this thing does not give a shit. It is generous with checkpoints in this section, so they did know how finicky it is. It appears Mitra is on his way out of the tower into the outside world, and Jack is going to chase him down. By driving that bitch down the tower. Hell yeah. But how exactly did he land that? Who cares? Outside, we don't have that Fallout green filter over everything or anything like that. Whatever the burst was that caused the apocalypse in this world seems to have mostly left everything intact. I guess they just aren't really able to grow plants or anything to be able to survive outside of the tower. There are also green zombies. So it was a zombie apocalypse? No. They're actually a human machine creation of one of the Asura, and Kira is obsessed with them. This level is really cool as you're getting on and off of the motorcycle to fight the zombies and open up doors and elevators so you can move the motorcycle forward. I can't help but imagine what these devs could do with their own shot at Spy Hunter. Along the way, we also get our introduction to these wheel guys, who I feel really got the short end of the zombie stick. These poor guys can't even use stairs, and half the way forward in this world is built on grind rails. I also bought an upgrade that makes kills give Jack stacking speed in this section, and it's hilarious. I highly recommend the Sonic build. And great, I can't even escape the Cybervoid outside of the Apocalypse Tower. Once again, though, it is way better in Ghostrunner 2, so I don't really have that much to complain about.
Not quite, but I do have the general direction.
Did I say way better? We're still tracking Mitra down along with some new enemies, disgusting worms that burrow around and spit acid. How nice. Even though I love the motorcycle and a lot of the sections in this level, it's actually my least favorite. We need to move some tentacles to move on by getting access to 3 different towers throughout the map that you drive to using the motorcycle. Sounds like a good idea for a level, but most of the levels in this game are about 20-ish minutes long or less, depending on how challenging they are for you. And I spent over 40 minutes on this one. And that's with having done it before and knowing roughly what I need to do. I just don't think an individual level needs to be that long, but that's just my opinion. Throughout the whole level, Kira is bored and talking to Jack about things like whether he ever gets bored of killing to keep you entertained while you find all the towers, and then at the top of each is an entrance into the Cybervoid. In there, instead of Kira, we talk with another member of the Asura, Madhu. He's the one that created all the zombies, just for fun, I guess, and he just taunts Jack for no apparent reason either. He's a true man of impulse. Eventually, Jack and Kira start talking about the burst that ended the world, which is the most interesting conversation in this level. Kira's theories range from aliens, which Jack does not entertain for even a second, to the architect orchestrating it to get people into the tower, to the Mars colony that apparently existed, doing it for some reason. In the end, it's not going to give you an actual answer, but it is fun to mess around with. That long-ass level is worth it though, because afterwards we find out they were planning to sink the tower with a giant worm.
It's a giant worm! They're sinking cities with a giant worm!
This is essentially a motorcycle escape sequence that eventually ends the only way it could, with Jack driving right into its mouth to blow it up from the inside. I've done this level an obscene amount of times because it's one of the ones I did for the completed levels without a death trophy, and I still love it. Just like the motorcycle gimmick being there only because it's cool, when the Asura made this giant worm, they definitely only put death traps on the inside of it as well because it's fucking cool. You just have to do a little stabby on the canker sores on your way out of its natural exit to bring it down, and even Kira thought it was sick. We finally found Mitra's signal, and surprising no one, it's a trap. And now we're in the beginning of the game again? Jack is somehow able to hear the Asura plotting as he goes, and eventually we drop into a more normal-looking area of Cybervoid. There's a new puzzle where you have to hit some objects in the correct order quickly, and then we get a snippet of a conversation between Adam and someone named Gyges that he has arrested. What we're looking at is actually some of Jack's sealed memories, and Rahu, the Avatar, wants to see them, and Jack kind of has no other option but to comply. Rahu doesn't even want to fight with Jack after seeing a few. He actually wants to work together because for some reason these memories are of great interest to him. As it turns out, Gyges is Mitra, the Asura leader. Jack theoretically never existed as a human being, but Mitra did. The thing is, Mitra believes that he fully is still Gyges, but no one could have survived the augmentations he went through. There's really nothing left of Gyges there besides his body. And Rahu doesn't want to follow someone that doesn't even know who they are. He tells Jack that Mitra and Madhu are headed to Dharma Tower now, and he's going to help stop them if Jack is willing to leave him in the Cybervoid afterwards. So he's betrayed all of his friends and is now going to fuck up all their plans. I take it back, he is Korra. While racing back to the tower to stop the attack, we learn that the Bushido code that was keeping the Asura in check has been erased because it needed to be for this to make any sense, and Kira gets into contact with Jack. He was actually stuck in the Cybervoid for a few weeks, so there's no time to waste. Oh no, this attack is even worse than I thought. The shield guys are back. But I think the devs agreed with me that they used to suck, because they are so much easier to deal with now that their cocaine has been taken away. Once we get past them, we end up face to face with Madhu, who has dealt with Bakunin, and then Jack just watches as he undergoes a Resident Evil transformation into the not-so-slim Reaper. This is a pretty difficult boss battle. He has 3 health bars that represent his 3 different forms, and the checkpoints are spread pretty far apart. I consider this to be the ultimate test in this game, even though we aren't quite to the end. You can see my deaths stack up in the corner. I died plenty of times trying to fight him. When he goes into his green form, he spawns enemies and towers that heal him because it wasn't hard enough, but they do serve as your checkpoints, so it's not all bad. I got him after about 30 deaths, but that felt quick. I'm pretty sure I died way more than that the first time I did this. Once that's done, you're abruptly sent to the climber's base. Victor and Butch are here again, arguing about nonsense again, so glad to see that they survived, and it's time to track down the last remaining Asura, Mitra. He wants to detonate the reactor that revived him and is no longer buddies with the dismantler. Rahu is basically Jack's bestest buddy at this point and is fully helping him. There's also some new explosive bug enemies you have to yank off the wall that, despite being robots, manage to still be gross. This section of the game is much more vertical than the rest, with fans and grind rails everywhere to get you around, but there's a reason for that which we'll get to soon. It's also very combat heavy, but the story has boiled down to mostly just, let's kill the bad guy at this point, so it doesn't really have much left to say.
How are you going to fight him?
To the death.
Jack! Well, he's got a 50% chance of winning. Either he does, or he doesn't.
Hell yeah, that's my kind of math, Kira. She's also working on something for us to get to Mitra, but she's gonna need some more time. Here's her little hint.
I'll go Daedalus on your ass.
Now back in the hideout for one final time, Butch and Victor don't have any dialogue this time for some reason. Or do they?
You ever wonder why we're here? Sorry, that's the wrong game. Hey, you think Jack has a...
Alright, time to start the end of the game. Does that say Wingsuit? Even in the 11th hour, this game is still throwing new things at you because they're cool. And this is not just for traversal, oh no. We're putting combat encounters in wingsuit areas, and you have to fly between platforms to get to enemies. There was no reason for this to be here, but I absolutely love it. It really is a great send-off for the game. It is a little hard to land with it though. Rahu is really committed to just staying in the Cybervoid and not coming out. Poor guy has given up. We'll give you your man cave, man. Don't worry about it. We finally arrived at the confrontation with Mitra.
This is your last chance to give up.
And you really think I'm going to take it?
The other option is death. Choose carefully.
Already did.
So be it.
This fight is tough, and it took me a bit to realize you could damage him outside of the counters you get after he does this one attack. Once you do enough damage, he takes you into the Cybervoid, and these parts, man, I hate to say it, but I hate them. For some reason, they decided at the end of the game that the final traversal sections should be in totally new, extremely floaty, low gravity. It makes it really difficult because you've just played through about 7 hours or so of controls being one way, and now all of a sudden at the end they're completely different but still demanding precision movement. The sections are pretty short before they take you back into the fight in the real world, but damn, I really wish they hadn't done that. It's the opposite of the first game, where the final Cybervoid section was great and I didn't like the rest. In the final part of the fight, it gets a bit tougher with electrified floors to dodge, but he's doing mostly the same moves throughout, so a little bit of patience and learning and you'll get through in no time. 40 deaths is no time, shut up. And Jack doesn't have time for Mitra's final words. We get one last goodbye for everyone in the hideout, as Jack has decided he's going to leave Dharma Tower to see what's out there in the world. Most are surprised, but they all understand, and after talking to everyone, Jack walks out the door. He takes the wingsuit and motorcycle out to be dramatic, and we cut to credits. Afterwards, there's one final scene where Kira manages to make a successful life sample, giving hope for the future, and the game ends. Ghostrunner 2 is much longer and a bit better than the first game in my opinion, and really represents what I think they wanted to create with the franchise if they only had the money at the start to do it. We know this one was profitable, but sales numbers are likely lower than the first one as of now, and I can't find a good number out there. One thing I did find interesting was lead gameplay designer, sorry for the mispronunciation, Lukas Vabik, talking about his inspirations for the game. He said, "I was mostly inspired by the Samurai Jack TV series from when I was a kid watching Cartoon Network. Of course, we also really like all kinds of cyberpunk in general, connecting that to things with ninja stuff, samurai stuff, and Japanese stuff. If you would have given me 100 guesses, I would never have said the American cartoon Samurai Jack was the inspiration for this cyberpunk robot ninja game made by European developers. But you never really know what people are inspired by." The series goes on sale relatively often, especially the first one. In fact, they were both just on sale on all platforms while I was working on this video, and I'd recommend waiting for a sale on the first game, but you can pick up a physical copy of the second one for around $30 at GameStop at any time, which I think is a reasonable price, especially if you plan to go for completion, but like I said earlier, I only recommend doing that if you're really into the game because RogueRunner is really annoying in my opinion, and nothing is worse than doing everything for a completion and then being gate-kept at the end by just one thing. I'd really like to see this series grow and continue to be supported, but as of right now, I have no idea what One More Level is working on. It could be another Ghostrunner game or something else entirely, I don't know. When I saw Metal Eden at the Sony State of Play earlier this year, I thought it was made by them, but it's actually not. So I'm going to keep my eye on that as something to fill this parkour game void I have in my heart. And for the underrepresented game video essay void in your heart, be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.